And another preseason is in the books for our beloved Pittsburgh Steelers as the Steelers go winless in the preseason, which is
0-3.
Which is the opposite of last year. Maybe that'll mean we go. Maybe we have a decent start for the season for once. I don't know. Well, I hope so because the quarterback competition, the quarterback battle, quote unquote, was a little more promising today than it was the past two games. Russell Wilson started the game as usual, like he did last week. He only played one drive. He played all but 2 minutes last week versus the Bills. Today, he only played one and only one drive, which ended in a touchdown. And we got to see a little bit of what we could hopefully get a lot of, which is that Russ and Pickens connection. They almost connected on a deep pass last week, which was ruled not a catch, but there's that little glimpse, and we got to see more of that today as he completed two passes for 26 yards, both of them to Pickens, the first being a loss of 6, and then the second one being a 32-yard catch down the left sideline, which eventually opened up the opportunity and gave the Steelers great field position for them to run it in with Cordero Patterson.
On a 30-yard touchdown run, Patterson found a huge hole, a big lane, and went straight up, shed some defenders, and was able to get a good touchdown. An opening drive touchdown and the first touchdown for the first team this preseason.
Yes, and keep in mind, that was the entire first-team offensive line. They played the majority of the first half. The offensive line as a whole looked a lot better.
They did much better.
Broderick looked a lot better. I know it wasn't against the Lions starters. Aiden Hutchinson was out there. The other pass rushers weren't really out there. Most of their starters weren't, but at least they looked a lot better than last week. You know, they're getting the errors out the way. They're getting the majority of the mistakes out the way, which was the complete opposite from last preseason where they looked damn near perfect.
They look flawless, and then week one, I mean, we know what happened.
So it's good that they're getting the mistakes out of the way, not just from the offensive line, but the entire offense in general. And thus, it ended in some success, not just from Russell Wilson, but also from Justin Fields, because Wilson got one drive, and Fields got the next after the defense had an incredible drive, which ended in 3 sacks, 2 of them being from Nick Herbig. Who,
yeah.
Picking
up right where he left off last preseason, and you could just tell from year 1 to year 2 that he has grown when it comes to as a pass rusher.
He's just more explosive. He's added more to his arsenal. That drive alone, he had 2 sacks, one of them being a strip sack. If Nick Herbig doesn't get a significant amount of playing time, the Steelers coaching is doing the defense very wrong.
I don't know what we're doing. Somehow, some way, you got to get all 3 pass rushers, T.J. Watt, Alex Highsmith, and Nick Herbig on the field at the same time.
Yeah, dude, their dime packages are going to be deadly if that's the way they run. They can run those 3 linebackers, 1 defensive lineman, have a sole linebacker in coverage. That could be Queen, that could be Wilson, that could be Roberts. Either, man. But get those 3 on the field at the same time, your pass rush is going to be absolutely killer for any quarterback. But because of that, that gave Justin Fields good field position where he himself looked good and in throwing the ball towards the middle of the field and throwing with some anticipation. He hit a nice dart to Michael Pruitt towards the middle of the field.
Yeah, some middle of the field action.
For a 22-yard gain, which set up an eventual touchdown for LaMichael Pirine. So both quarterbacks, for the first time this preseason, led the first-team offense to touchdowns on back-to-back drives.
Back-to-back drives. And it was the only touchdowns that we saw in this game, but they were from the first team, the majority of the first-team offense.
Right.
You know, Fields got involved with the first team. Russ, only for one drive, got involved with the first team. But when it comes to the quarterback play, you saw some production that we didn't see within the past 2 preseason
and
games.
that could have been a result because they learned from their mistakes. They're trying to get better at what they couldn't execute the past couple of games, which clearly we saw some of that because they gave them their only 2 touchdowns of the game and on back-to-back drives. This game was a majority just a 1-quarter game when it comes to the Steelers, and what was really worth noting, which is clearly the quarterback battle, quote-unquote. The fact that Russell Wilson only played 1 quarter, or not 1 quarter, one series, kind of gives you every indication that, hey, he's the starter. Now, we were hoping we would have seen a little more from Wilson because last week he was limited due to offensive line play, and Arthur Smith did admit he called plays for Justin that he didn't call for Wilson. So he kind of half-assed the playbook, half-assed the play calling for Russell Wilson last week due to his calf injury.
Yeah.
This week, that was not the case. But he only got 1 drive. Now, I get he's a veteran. He's a future Hall of Famer. And because of that, he will be the starter. I don't think Fields will be the starter. We'll get into that a little later. But Because Wilson is a veteran, he only played one drive, which I get. And it's preseason, you don't want to risk any injury, especially since he came into camp with a calf injury.
Yeah, totally understandable.
But this is a new scheme. This is a new offense. This is a new coaching staff that he's under. I would have preferred to see just a little more and hopefully some consistency from Wilson.
Yeah, and I know that it's the third preseason game, the final preseason game, but I don't get why Wilson got the majority of the first half last week before Fields came in for the 2-minute offense, but Wilson only got one drive for this one.
And then Fields would play the rest of the first quarter. We really only got to see the first two quarterbacks for the first 20 minutes of the game. That was it.
Yeah, like obviously it's inevitable that Wilson will be the starting quarterback. We all know this. He's going to be the guy that the Steelers are going to go with come week one.
Right.
But you still want to see what Russ can do with the first team. You still want to see the chemistry that they're building, how they can connect and do on the football field.
Yes, being that Justin Fields got the majority of first-team reps in camp.
I don't want to sound spoiled, and I don't want to come off as that whatsoever, but it's still the matter of the fact that we should see more of Russ with his first team.
Right. Well, Tomlin's thinking is he's a veteran. He already knows what to do. He knows what he can expect from him. And in terms of preparation, Russ Wilson's one of the best in the group.
And I totally get that. I do.
So with that being said, we only saw one drive from Russ, and it ended in a touchdown. At least we got that. That's what we wanted to see today, was a touchdown from the first team. And we saw one from Fields and one from Wilson. Fields would play a couple drives after that, and it didn't really result in anything else outside of a botched snap, a mistimed snap, a miscommunication between Zach Frazier and Justin Fields. Fields wasn't ready. He wasn't anticipating the snap, and it just went right past him. He recovered. It was a loss of down, but other than that, yeah, that's all we really got to see from Wilson and Fields. Now, who should start is the question. We know Wilson will start. We know he's going to start. It was his job to lose, and he hasn't lost it. That makes me kind of question why Fields didn't get more playing time, to see if he could make a stronger case, or just to see if Fields has improved on anything from Chicago in terms of throwing with anticipation or reading defenses or decision-making or accuracy. Mm-hmm. He showed some cases of that in the preseason, just not enough. And the fact that he's going to be a backup, he's not going to find much playing time as a quarterback. He'll still see time, I'd imagine, using his legs and trying to keep defenses on their toes, but he's not going to see a lot of quarterback time. Could he start at some point in the season? I would bank on it. For what reason? That'll be determined. But Wilson is going to be the week one starter. Should he? Yes, I think he should. Not just because he's a veteran, not because he's so prepared and because he makes less mistakes, but it's also Fields, I just don't think has really improved the way that we wanted to see. Has he improved? Yes. But is it to the level where he could be the starter, where he should be the starter? I don't think so. Is it more exciting with Fields in?
Yeah.
Yes.
Before you continue, I will say this. Fields brings more excitement to the offense with his dynamic dual threat ability. He brings a level of excitement that Russ doesn't, because he's a lot older and he's more of a pocket passer than he was a runner than his younger days. But at the same time, Fields does bring more worrisome capabilities. He because of his miscues and his errors that he's still trying to work on, that he still needs to fix.
It's mostly his vision and his decision making down towards the defense. I don't think he's improved on that. They could still fix it. If they don't fix it during the season or by next season, then I don't know how much farther Justin Fields is going to get as an NFL quarterback. But I mean, because of that, that's going to give him time to be able to mature in that aspect with Wilson being the starter.
And if Fields is not the starter, which I don't anticipate him being, it's not a bad thing for Fields whatsoever.
No.
He can still learn the playbook on the bench. He can still learn on his mistakes. He can still work on his errors. And he can learn a thing or two from Russell Wilson, one of the best in the game.
Right. And I think that's the Steelers' vision. That's for next offseason talk, but I think that's their vision. Wilson will be the starter, undoubtedly. Fields will still see playing time, but I think we kind of already knew that months ago, but this game just really confirmed it, especially with Wilson only playing one drive. It's like, hey, go in there, see what you can do, but don't get hurt. He didn't get hurt, and then Fields got to see a little playing time, a little more playing time. And it was really just a one-quarter game in terms of anything noteworthy, which was what we saw from the offense, what we saw from Fields and Wilson, and what we saw mostly from the pass rush, which was Nick Herbig. He had 2 sacks, a strip sack. Benton got a sack. I don't know what they put in Wisconsin. I don't know what's in the water, what's in the cheese over there, but keep doing it. I mean, you see Watt, it's a legend already. He's a future Hall of Famer. Herbig is going to be an incredible depth piece. Benton is really looking a lot leaner. He's looking a lot faster.
Yes, he is.
Like, all we saw from him in preseason was just pressure, penetration, up in the quarterback's face, sacks. That's what you want to see. That's what we got to see tonight, man. So it's good things you want to see. And a little side note, I want to give a huge shout out to Julius Welshoff.
Yeah, since we're talking edge rushers here, I mean, that fourth edge piece, that fourth edge depth piece right there is wide open.
Right.
It could go to anybody. It could go to a Kyron Johnson. It could go to a Jeremiah Moon. But a guy like Julius Welschkoff, I mean, he's a German type of player. You know, he's never played this sport before, and he was an international guy that the Steelers signed as an undrafted free agent,
But he had 2 sacks today.
that's 3 sacks altogether this preseason. Like he has made a very strong case,
Right.
and he looked very, very solid today.
But the pass rush alone had 5 sacks in the first half. Thanks to Welshoff, thanks to Herbig, thanks to Benton. So shout out to them, man. But that's really anything worth noting. It was the 3rd preseason game. The majority of the game was just 3rd stringers, backups. So that's really anything to note here. Shout out to Des Fitzpatrick. He had a great catch down the right sideline of the field from Kyle Allen.
59-yard run and catch, man. Des Fitzpatrick, I feel week by week in the preseason, he makes a big play or a big catch.
And that set up the only other points we got outside of the first quarter, which was the field goal. So shout out to Des Fitzpatrick. He's having himself a very strong preseason.
I would say he's another sleeper that can make his way into the 53-man roster, probably as a 5th or 6th wide receiver.
Yeah.
He's done, I feel, very solid in preseason as well.
Right. So, but other than that, yeah, that's really anything that's worth noting here for this game. Preseason's over. Preseason's in the books. The final cuts are Tuesday by 4 o'clock. We'll see who makes the roster, who gets cut, who's on the practice squad. That'll be all worth noting because depending on who makes the roster, who gets cut, and all that, the Steelers will still be making moves. The initial 53 is never the final 53.
No, it's not.
There will be some extra moves. There will be some extra additions. There will be some cuts from other teams that the Steelers will probably put waivers on, especially at positions like backup center, backup tackle, receiver, and I would even say slot corner. They didn't get enough from slot corner during the preseason, so that's a position they're going to have to fill. So
Yeah, because the Steelers started off hot, 14-0 in this preseason game. But then after the first quarter, I mean, the depth didn't really hold their own well.
No, the depth in every category was
I mean,
just
they
rough.
allowed 24 unanswered points from Detroit's backups.
Yeah.
So some of the depth is absolutely worrisome. The Steelers are definitely going to have to do their due diligence and look for better depth, like backup center, backup right tackle, wide receiver, maybe even cornerback, maybe slot corner, of course. You know, that position is wide open.
Yeah, so whoever makes the roster will make the roster, but there will be extra additions. There will be some signings, potentially some final cut trades. Maybe we see a trade for a receiver. Maybe we see a trade for a slot corner. You know, we could see anything.
Yeah, so definitely keep an eye out for what the Steelers could be doing right there.
It's going to be very interesting. But, yes, today confirmed. It's not officially confirmed, but I think we already knew for months now. Russ will be the starter, and Nick Herbig's a dog. That's really the biggest things coming out of this game. So shout out to those two. Shout out to everyone that made plays today. And shout out to everyone that made plays all preseason, man. So I'm hoping they made a strong enough case to make the roster. We'll find out by Tuesday. But let us know you guys' thoughts about this game down in the comments below. How you guys feel about Russ? How you guys feel about Fields? Everything, man. Let us know you guys' thoughts. Preseason's over. And the next time we can watch football, the next time we can watch Steelers football, it will count. And hopefully we don't get a repeat of last year's week 1. No. Please, God, no. Let us know you guys' thoughts. Here we go, Steelers, man.
And as always, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you later.
Peace!